Crunchyroll is selling your personal information without your consent. They have just recently lost a lawsuit against them, a class action lawsuit, and many people are getting emails right now stating that, yes, hey, give us your information, we'll give you $30 part of this class action settlement. As per all cases of class action lawsuits, yes, the lawyers get a lot of money, which is a lot of incentive to go after these companies, and everybody involved with the class action, which they pretty much bank on. They want as many people possible to be a part of this class action lawsuit, as many victims as possible, and then we'll just we'll cut you a check for $30. That's the unfortunate thing. But no, I've seen people chirping here and there that they were getting emails, and it seems like it's going in waves, so it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. More people are getting these emails. And then here recently, this last 24 hours, we got a lot of press releases talking about this particular case. And I really wasn't that big on really covering it, because what it comes down to is cases like this, we don't really know exactly what happened. That's the unfortunate thing with settlements. Just to give people an idea, I'm not a lawyer, but my basic knowledge of court systems and stuff like that and how it works is you'll often have a case where you have a plaintiff. This person lodges a lawsuit against another company, and then they'll kind of deliberate back and forth. They'll say, this is what we got, this is what we're going to do. And sometimes, before it even hits court, in a lot of cases, they want to settle. Because settling, in a lot of cases, is very cheap. And so when I seen this whole statement, and I seen that it was settled, and I seen the statement by Crunchyroll, I thought, it's not that big of a deal. This isn't going to tell us anything. That's the unfortunate thing that comes from all this. But, as per usual, as I'm sitting here going, nothing to talk about here, I see a bunch of people popping up saying, oh my gosh, Crunchyroll's selling your information. This is proof. This is damning evidence. Crunchyroll's an evil company, and my gosh, they lost a lawsuit for it. And it gets me kind of worked up, because I'm like, that's not necessarily the truth. But hey, whatever gets clicks, right? So I am here to kind of give you guys a basic rundown of, again, my very limited knowledge of the court systems and what it actually means, what this whole thing means. Because again, unfortunately, it was settled. So we don't really know much about it, because typically when a company settles outside of court, you don't get to know what the hell happened. You don't get to really see the evidence. And that's really the bummer that comes from this whole situation. Yes, A&N covered it, saying Sony Picture Entertainment and Crunchyroll reached a settlement, not a loss of a lawsuit, on September 15th in a class action lawsuit between them and Salvador Beltran Jr., Ellie Gross, and others, making Crunchyroll users in the United States eligible for a payment of approximately $30. They do mention the idea that, yes, technically it's an approximate. Essentially, my guess here is that if there's less people it's the estimate based on how many users are affected. So the less amount of people that technically contact them, the more they would technically get. But I don't expect too much of this, but who knows? Choose if you want to send your information, and in doing so, in most cases, if you accept the settlement, that means that you can't do anything in the future. You are agreeing that this is enough for you, and they're scot-free. That's how this works. So keep that in mind. Users in the United States who have registered, streamed, or otherwise used Crunchyroll's website or app are eligible for payment. Eligible user must submit the claim by December 12th, 2023. Class action lawsuit alleged that Crunchyroll violated the United States Video Privacy Protection Act by disclosing subscribers' personally identifiable information to Facebook and other third-party companies. Sony Picture Entertainment and Crunchyroll denied the claim. That's the key thing here. Crunchyroll, Sony, and obviously going to do that in order to save face. I'm not saying that Crunchyroll's a good person here. Let me make that perfectly clear. If we do get actual evidence that comes out that says, yeah, here's where it did it, I'm perfectly willing to say. I would not shock me. It does not shock me at all. I'm just saying this is what happened here. I want people to be clear on what actually happened. You can make your speculations. You can say yes to the evil company. That's fine. I'll agree with you most cases. I just want to make sure that people know what's happening. But yes, Sony and Crunchyroll denied the claim, but have decided to settle to avoid uncertainties and expenses associated with continuing the case. Again, the main key thing here is to remember when a plaintiff says, you did this, and Crunchyroll says, oh, let me look at this. In a lot of cases, what's actually happening there, again, before it gets to court, court is not involved at this point. They are involved because they handle the paperwork and, yes, issuing you made a settlement and they make sure you follow it. But they have not gone into an actual court hearing and provided their evidence. In the process of them in the talks before it, yes, they could have said, Crunchyroll, here's our evidence, and Crunchyroll sees it and goes, yeah, that's probably enough to go to court, but at the same time, you probably won't win against us, but if we go to court, it will probably cost us more in legal fees to drag this out for 2 to 3 years than if we just settle now and just pay out the settlement. And guess what? The lawyers aren't out to get Crunchyroll and make them pay for it. They want to get that money. So they settled. So the lawyers on both sides are happy because not enough actually happened to each side and everybody's happy. And that sadly kind of ruins the idea of us as part of the settlement even getting our justice. Because again, we're only getting $30. We're not actually getting Crunchyroll or Sony for this. But anyways, moving on. That was pretty much how ANN kind of covered it. I do know like the Mary Sue kind of did a better breakdown of it, which I did kind of like, which kind of gets in more details of how this all started. And that's back in September 2022. Crunchyroll parent company Sony Group Corporation was sued by Lisa Cuevas. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this name. An Illinois Crunchyroll and Facebook user who viewed Crunchyroll while being logged into a Facebook account. The case concerned personal identifiable information being shared with third parties like Facebook, meaning Cuevas' identity and her Crunchyroll viewing behavior and viewing history was disclosed to Meta, Facebook. Quote, plaintiff never gave defendant express written consent to disclose her personal viewing information, the original class action complaint claimed. So what they're saying here is it all started with this idea that she was viewing Crunchyroll and it gave information back to Facebook because she was logged into there. And the information it gave was viewing behavior and viewing history. Yes, it's still bad, but again, this isn't like Facebook is selling all of your personal data information. Cuevas' lawsuit hinged on the Video Privacy Protection Act. According to a lawsuit, Crunchyroll was supposedly violating federal law by not stating in its terms of service and privacy policy that it will share digital subscribers' private and protected personal viewing information with third parties, including Facebook. When a Crunchyroll digital subscriber enters a website and watches a video media on the website sends to Facebook certain information about the viewer, including, but not limited to, their identity and the media content the digital subscriber watched. The identity would probably be their name, so your first and last name, and then following that, the idea of what you watched, which again is still bad. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just trying to give the full details here. Specifically, Crunchyroll sends to Facebook the video content name, its URL, and most notably, the viewer's Facebook. The complaint saw 3 amended complaints. So this is where it kind of starts to kind of stack on itself. You have the original complaint, and then you have these amended complaints on top of it. One included as recent as August of 2023. By the second, 2 plaintiffs replaced Cuevas and alleged similar experiences while using Crunchyroll. In the final amended complaint, the lawsuit stressed that Crunchyroll did not divulge that it would share the plaintiff's personal viewing information with Google and Adobe, amongst other third parties. Crunchyroll monetized its database by disclosing its digital subscribers' personal viewing information to third parties in a manner allowing them to make a direct connection, without the consent of the digital subscriber, and to the detriment of the legally protected privacy rights. The final complaint alleged, critically, the personal viewing information defendants disclose to the unauthorized third parties allows those third parties to build from scratch or cross-reference and add to the data it has in its own detailed profiles for its own users, adding to its trove of personally identifiable information. So that's pretty much meaning the idea that, yes, technically Facebook already has some information on you. You start viewing Crunchyroll while you're still logged in over here, and it's giving that data back to them so they can keep it in their own databases. And yes, technically a lot of that is been found in the past to serve ads. It's to, yes, technically sell that information to other people. How many of our Facebook users are watching, I don't know, Chainsaw Man or whatever? Under the VPPA, any videotape service provider must have informed written consent from the user before giving third-party service access to personally identifiable information, the lawsuit said. So yeah, what this all kind of means is, like I said, what happened here is you have the initial party, and then you have these amended other parties that came on along with it that essentially said, oh, look, I have had cases where I was in Facebook and I went to Crunchyroll and it gave that data back to Facebook. Maybe they came back and they seen something pop up on their screen that applies to that, and they went, that must mean they're giving information back to Facebook. A good example would be, yes, they're logged into Facebook. They go to watch, again, Chainsaw Man, and then when they go back to their Facebook page, suddenly on the side of the screen it says, buy Chainsaw Man merch. It's a good indication that Facebook now knows that I watched Chainsaw Man. And again, what typically these companies do that information for is to essentially cross-pollinate between the two of them and serve ads. I'm not saying it's right. That's, again, by law, they're supposed to disclose to you that it wants to give that information over to it. For instance, here recently on Discord, a lot of people got this new add-on that allows them to tell everybody what they're watching on Crunchyroll. It's like this new cool little add-on. You have to give them consent to do that. You have to give them consent that when you're watching Crunchyroll, it can tell Discord, hey, show that they are watching this show, and then it pops up on your Discord. That's where you gave it consent. In this case, what these, again, lawsuits allege is that Crunchyroll is doing that without telling them. And that's, yes, against the law. Now, again, what I go back here is the problem that I have with this whole thing as a whole, and it's kind of my issue with the justice system as a whole, is us as outsiders looking at this, is we weren't involved. We weren't asked our opinion on this or anything like this. What happened is these people eventually create this class action lawsuit that gets us all involved in this justice being served upon Sony and Crunchyroll to say, you're selling their information. But again, like I said earlier, it was settled outside of court. The lawyers got their money. They got their justice in making Crunchyroll and Sony pay a lot of money that we will see pennies of. And in the end, we unfortunately don't get to see it in court where we get to see the actual evidence, what they proposed to Crunchyroll. And again, let me play devil's advocate here. From Crunchyroll's perspective, they could have came to them and they're like, that's not going to work. You're never going to win in court with this information. None of this is actual evidence. But again, we don't want to have to bother with going to court because the court is going to hear it. And it's going to cost us more. So let's settle outside of court. So there could be a chance that there is no evidence here at all that Crunchyroll did anything wrong. Crunchyroll, to be fair, is saying they did nothing wrong. Anything they have done in the past, it could be them saying, look, any case where you believe that we did wrong, we have where they consented to it. Because yes, you can consent to it. That's why you got to read those legal agreements. On the other hand, yes, I hate the idea that Crunchyroll is selling my personal information. I hate the idea they're giving it to other third-party companies and basically making money. I've made content previously talking about how Crunchyroll technically is not making much money because it's spending all of its money buying licenses every single week that costs them upwards of multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you put it side by side with their subscribers, they're pretty close to breaking even. So how could they possibly be making more money? It could be selling information. I don't know. I have no proof of that whatsoever. I'm not alleging that. But this is a sign that that could be true. Again, this court case told us nothing. Because in the end, it was settled outside of court. And that's the unfortunate thing. And in a lot of cases, when they settle outside of court, they agree to not tell anybody what happened. Crunchyroll can make it part of the settlement that they cannot disclose that information outside of what they actually presented in the court case. Additionally, by us going there and getting our $30, we're telling them we can't take action against them because that was enough to compensate for them settling that they sold our information. And I think it's kind of telling that Crunchyroll themselves and Sony were able to say that they did not violate the law after the settlement, which makes me believe that part of that settlement was that they could go out and say, no, we didn't do anything wrong, which sort of does kind of lean me to the idea that they did not have enough evidence to actually prosecute them. They just settled to avoid court costs. But that's, again, my limited knowledge of the legal system that seems to be much more knowledgeable than a lot of other videos and posts that I've been seeing. But hey, again, I understand that's the clickbait game, but I thought I would get on here, make a video, let you guys know everything that I was able to find, which seems to be a lot more informative than other things I've been seeing, which, again, Not to toot my own horn, I think it's a lot more important for people to understand. But anyways, that is the whole situation with Crunchyroll and the settlement for selling information and how they settled outside of court and did not lose a court hearing or anything like that. But it is what it is. But if you guys enjoyed this video, as always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you think of this whole situation. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support and you're new here, make sure that subscribe button. I do content, news reviews, first impressions, top list. I like to look into things like this whenever I see people going outraged and like to look into it more to make sure that everybody's clear on what actually happens. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support this channel more and you like what I do here, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody does, and y'all take care.